Hi everyone, it's Miriam with a Y. I've had this acrylic skin for quite a while. Now, if you're new to acrylic pouring, a skin is just paint that you've left to dry and then peel off whatever surface it was on. So this is dry acrylic paint, so this is a skin. Now, this one was leftover paint from another acrylic pour. I just threw all that leftover paint into another cup and poured it out onto this really thin silicone placemat. Now, these mats are similar to my larger work area mats that were gifted to me by two lovely viewers. Thank you so much, Carol, and thank you so much, Day. These are quite a bit smaller and much thinner. They are literally paper thin. I like these placemats a lot for making what I call deliberate skins. In other words, a skin that I planned to make as opposed to one that just is runoff from like a dirty pour. I like these mats because the skins peel off so easily and these are endlessly reusable. They don't wrinkle, they just stay super flat when you're working on them. This one shows a little bit of a wave more because the paint has been rolled up for so long. But once I peel it off, the mat itself will go back to being super flat. Now, this skin has had no plan, which is why it was rolled up. But I've been watching a lot of Sharon Lindley, my favorite resin artist these days. She makes the most beautiful, realistic ocean pours with acrylic paint and resin and embellishments. Remember to check her out and subscribe to her channel. You will learn so much. But her work has been inspiring me a lot. Now, unlike Sharon, I'm going to go more of the abstract route, but I want to stay with that ocean theme because it's been on my mind a lot lately. And the reason I'm going to go abstract instead of realist like Sharon is because I have this fun seahorse wooden cutout and I want to be a little playful. So my plan is to cover part of this little guy with the skin, give that part of the skin a little bit of a glisten, add some sand on part of it, some fun embellishments, and I also want to add a partial resin layer with a really pretty special effect. This project will end up being 2 parts because there's a lot to do. So let's get started and do this thing. Now for my first step, I covered part of the back of the seahorse with painter's tape. And the reason I did that is this is the area that's going to get resin. So if I pour resin and it sort of drips down the sides, it will likely form little driplets underneath. And I don't want to have to deal with trying to scrape those off afterwards. Having the tape here will make it really easy. I pull off the tape and any little drops that form will come off with the tape. I didn't bother doing it up here because in this area I'm going to be putting sand and I'll be able to control the sand well enough. It won't get away with me. But resin, you never know. So I want to be careful. The tape on a shape like this is a tricky little operation. If you're putting tape on a square piece, that's simple enough. And even if you're going to put it on a round piece, once you put the tape, you can cut around easily enough. But on a piece that's this intricate, the way that I dealt with it was to use an X-Acto. And I used, this is just a self-healing mat. I don't know how these work. They're like magic. You cut on them and the cuts don't show up. Now, if you're not an adult, please get an adult to help you with this. These are extra sharp and super dangerous. And even if you are an adult, please be extra careful. These are super sharp and extra dangerous. Okay, so I put the tape along the edge and then I just ran my X-Acto blade along the edge on the tape. and then was able to remove it easily enough. If you take your time with this, you can get a really nice clean edge. For me, was the easiest way. My next step is to deal with the edge. Very often when you get cutouts like this, the edge is very dark. Now, for your project, a dark edge may work just fine. But for what I'm doing, I kind of would like to have a metallic blue and maybe gold edge to go with the colors that I'm using. I've decided to use Lumiere paints for this step. Lumiere is a line of highly pigmented metallic paint made by Jacquard. They also make Pinata alcohol inks. I love these because they're a bit thicker than most metallic paints. These come in over 30 beautiful colors that work so well on wood, and they're really great on fabric too, by the way. These come most often in 2 1/4 ounce jars, and bigger if you need. But like a few different lines by Jacquard, Lumiere is also available in an exciter pack of 9 colors to get you started with these gorgeous paints. Some of you have left in comments I've seen on Facebook and on YouTube that you've ordered the Pinata alcohol inks, but instead you got paint. I'm guessing you ordered this exciter pack. This is the Lumiere exciter pack. Jacquard has a few different exciter packs to get you started on their line of alcohol inks, metallic paints, textile paints, airbrush paints. They've got a few different packs. All the exciter packs have this layout, but the name is written really big up here. So when you're ordering, make sure you check the name on the pack so that you're not bummed out and receive something other than what you wanted. The 2 Lumiere colors I'll be using are Pearl Turquoise and Sunset Gold. I'm painting the edge where the ocean will go in this pretty pearl turquoise because it goes so nicely with the acrylic skin I'll be using. For the head of the Seahorse, I've chosen this lush sunset gold because I'll be mixing in some gold mica powder to my sand to give it a little bit of sparkle and also to take it away from the very white color of the sand that I have. And rather than hunt down another paint as my under layer for the sand, I might as well just work with this. I've decided to sort of let the beach kind of run from here, maybe to here. It'll be easy for me to get the sand up to this point rather than having to try to deal with getting resin to all these little points here. That's all done. Onward to the skin. This feels very watery. So I'm thinking I would use up this section here. So I will draw myself some lines so that I know where to cut. I'm just using a regular pen for this because it's not going to show. Okay, now this is all cut out. I didn't want to take the risk of trying to cut this curve and cracking this area. So I'm not going to remove this little section until I've well affixed the skin to the wood and it's safe. I'm going to use good old Elmer's glue. And I'm just going to use my fingers to spread it, nothing too technical. And this is repositionable for a little bit. I didn't want to put something down like epoxy or something that would grab on and not give me the chance to make adjustments if I needed to. And I really want to burnish it well to the wood. So now I'm going to let this be and then come and cut off the excess. Now, while I let this dry, I will take care of storing this skin. It's a nice big piece that I have left that lends itself to lots of other fun projects, like maybe a fingernail or two. This little area here reminds me of a geode, so that has some fun potential. The way that I store skins when they're not on a silicone mat is to sandwich them between pieces of freezer paper or wax paper, really any kind of paper, as long as I don't have skins touching each other. If I was to store this piece on top of this piece, over time they kind of could fuse, and trying to separate this from this one could ruin it. So my best bet is to sandwich it between sheets of paper. This is pretty dry now, so I've brought back the scary tool, and I am now going to trim off the excess skin. I'm just going to very lightly run the blade along the edge. I don't really have to work very hard. The blade is so sharp, it's really just going through the skin like butter. It's almost like peeling an apple. This step now is optional. I'm going to add a little glistening layer to this skin so that when I add resin on top, it'll glisten under the resin. That's my hope. So I'm using DecoArt's Glamour Dust for that. This will dry mostly clear and give sort of like a sparkly, fine glitter quality to the skin, as if there had been glitter in the paint when you made the skin. I'm just brushing it on the entire skin. And now we have to let this dry. There's a lot of watching paint dry in this project. If you're like me and you're impatient, you can use your heat gun or blow dryer to help things along. And now after one coat, I have a sort of glistening sheen to the skin. I should never be left alone for too long with paint. I kept looking at this and thinking, I don't know, maybe this is a little darker of a beach than I want. So I'm kind of knocking it down a little bit just by adding some thinned white paint and kind of giving it a wash to lighten it a little bit, because it's a little darker than I think I'm gonna want for my beach. See, but then if you leave me alone for long enough, I'll go, you know, dark is okay. That is the joy of art. You can just do what you want and change things and add things and remove things. The last thing I'm going to do before we end part one is put my sand down. In the past, I've added sand to a beach painting by making a thick paste of sand and Elmer's glue and kind of troweling it on. But this time around, I want a thinner coating of sand, and I don't trust a thin wash of Elmer's glue to hold that sand. So I'm going to use epoxy as my glue. Since the sand that I have is basically white, so much lighter than I'd like, and since this entire piece is a little fun and magical, I mixed in a bit of Solar Gold Pearl X mica powder to a bit of sand to bump up the sand's color. And I added it to this little shaker bottle so that I will be able to easily sprinkle the mix onto the Seahorse. It should give me a nice uniform layer of sand, enhanced in color by the underpainting that I did. What I'm going to do now is give this a coat of epoxy. And I'm just going to use 5-minute epoxy. This tube dispenses equal amounts of both parts. I just have to mix this very well, make sure that it's uniformly mixed. And unlike when we mix resin, I don't care about bubbles at all. And I'm just going to scoop some onto the horse. I think my best tool for spreading it is going to be my finger. I am just going to spread as uniform a layer as I can. It doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, art doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be what you want it to be, and pretty if that's what you're going for, or gritty if that's what you're going for. But perfection, don't aim for that. That just makes you crazy and takes the joy out of the process. These little finger cuts are just awesome, because I didn't want a whole glove just for this one little thing. So these little individual finger gloves, super practical. All right, now all I'm gonna do is take my little sand mixture and generously sprinkle across this entire area. More is better here, because you want to make sure that every little speck is covered. And now I'm just going to take a piece of scrap paper, set it down on top, and really press so that I really press the sand into the glue. Okay. Tap off any excess. And we have a nicely uniformly sanded little seahorse. I think this turned out really well. I love the color. I'm really glad that I lightened the background a little, because this is exactly the color I had in mind, you know? So yay! It's kind of awesome when you get just what you want in your piece. Okay, we have taped our back, painted our edges, attached our acrylic skin, and given it a glistening coat. We've put down an underpainting for our sand twice. And we've added our sand. I think we need a nap. But we do have to stop here because the sand has to set for 24 hours before it's really safe to handle. At that point, I'll be able to brush off any excess and have fun with our resin layer. If you're enjoying this project so far, let me know with a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss part 2 and lots of future projects with acrylics, resin, and alcohol inks. Links to everything I've used are in the description box below. Checking some of the links out before you do any shopping on Amazon really helps me with getting supplies for this channel. There are other ways that you can participate in making new and different videos happen so that I can continue to bring you tips, tricks, and techniques for your art. Those ways to show support and contribute are in the description box too. As always, please share this video as much as you can. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and for watching. See you in a couple of days with the completion of As the Seahorse Turns. Dum dum dum. Oh my gosh. Okay, it's been a long day. Go let your creative nature shine. I gotta put mine to bed. Okay, bye now.